one of the things we've heard is there are a lot of moving parts. They change all the time. We need to adapt. And now Heather Friedman from GreatAmerica Financial Services is going to come up and talk a little bit about Agile Frameworks in a Nimble marketing department. So excited to hear.
Thanks. Oh, it works. Okay. Sorry, guys. Hi, my name is Heather Friedman, and I do work for GreatAmerica. We've recently rebranded, so I'm not going to give you the financial services, all the other things. And about, 6 months or so ago, I really started focusing in on a strategy around GEO, AIO, et cetera. And everything I read said we needed to be credible, we needed to be out there, we needed our executive team to do speaking. Oh, thank you. Good idea. Hang tight, 1 sec. There we go. That's me. So we all need to be out there, and we need to be on podcasts, and you need to do speaking events or speaking engagements, and you need to make sure that you're helping the marketing team by writing blogs, et cetera, et cetera. And they all were like, yeah, that's great. You go first. So that's why I'm here. Practice what I preach, right? Every day. So I have been in marketing for a very long time. I won't say how long. But I have done everything from startups to, I was part of the original team with Red Bull Energy Drink as we introduced it to the United States. That's how long, if you want to do the math. I ran a marketing agency for a number of years, and then in 2019, 6 months before the pandemic, GreatAmerica, what was GreatAmerica Financial Services, contacted me and said, we need you to build a marketing team for us. We have sort of 3 disparate people who kind of do whatever we ask them to do, and right before coming in here, I met these 2 wonderful young women, and I was like, oh, what do your teams look like? And they're like, it's just me. And I was like, oh gosh, okay, yikes, first of all, but second of all, hopefully I can do a little bit of something to help you, right? And anyway, so I made the switch to GreatAmerica. I sold my agency, and then 6 months later, of course, we were all sent home, and you're trying to assess and rebuild and think about a team, and you don't even remember their names because you only met them a few days ago. So it was just kind of a very interesting time. But at the same time, it did allow us to, what I will say is evolve into what I'm going to present to you today. So, as I mentioned, I've been in marketing forever and a day. And the thing I love the most about it is marketing is the one interesting intersection where we get to touch everything. Like, it's anything from the invoicing department asking my opinion on what should be the language on our invoices to literally, I came from a meeting yesterday where we were talking about several new locations that we have and talking about what that environment needed to be internally for both employees that we're acquiring as well as customers that we're acquiring. So I love that we get to touch everything. I love that I get to have my fingers in absolutely all parts of the business. And with great responsibility comes this. So I love, again, that I get to be a part of it all, but I also feel like, and particularly, I can't remember if they're even in here, the 2 young women that I met who were like, oh, I'm a one-woman shop. This is it. Everything you see, everything the light touches is not necessarily your kingdom, it's your problem to solve. So I wanted to frame something up that I think will help you. And so first and foremost, I'd like to disqualify some of you. So how many of you, by a show of hands, have an incredibly robust, probably even overfilled marketing department, and everybody in your entire organization understands the value of marketing and what you bring to the table, and your sales and marketing team, man, you guys are just totally in peaceful alignment. You're like besties high-fiving each other down the hall. Do we have any of those in this room? Okay, good. You're in the right room. That's awesome. Okay, so our challenges, as I'm sure are many of your challenges, and I specifically left an ellipses at the bottom here because I have the feeling that there's even going to be more that come up in your mind, right? So I have a team of 17 people. They're wonderful. I love them all. But they have multiple competing projects. We have 4 divisions. We now have a B2C arm that we've never had before. We have a finance or franchise arm that we've never had before. I have people that are focused on those areas, and then a team sort of behind the scenes that's in charge of anything from videography to content creation to graphic design to photography, right? Typical Marcom team. And everybody wants everything, and everything's the number one priority. I think I have roughly 50 number one priorities going on at any given moment in time. And then I also have, because of the pandemic, which in my eyes was actually a blessing in disguise, I have a couple of remote team members, so I can't sit knee to knee with those people and say, hey, let me bring you along on this journey, or I noticed that this isn't going well, so I want to sit with you and work with you. Instead, it's a Zoom call, which is highly impersonal. Now, the good news is they are both remote in Chicago, oddly enough, so I got to have dinner with them last night, so that part was pretty awesome. But, you know, you're thinking about, from a marketing perspective, right? We're thinking about reputation. We're thinking about, I loved the last speaker and how you can literally tie that to the end result and the value in the company. And then also, from my own sort of selfish perspective, I was really concerned about the reputation of the marketing team. Before I joined, we were affectionately known as the arts and crafts department. And that's who you brought to make your PowerPoint look pretty. And so I wanted to take this sort of ragtag group of people who were in it for the right reasons, like they were great humans, but help them sort of shift their thinking, shift their accountability, because the only way you're going to change the accountability and the reputation of your marketing team is if you can show the value of what they're doing. We had limited resources, not as limited as the two women that I spoke to earlier, but we had limited resources. And then I wanted to, again, illustrate the value and to be able to show how all of this could work together in a way that made you feel like you were getting what you need, and you feel like you were getting what you need from the marketing team, and hopefully have all of us sort of work in harmony. And again, because we had these very siloed departments. Okay, so you guys are all familiar with Section 179, right? Yeah, I'm guessing. We're going to assume the answer is yes. So we could have 4 different pieces of collateral on the exact same tax code that was going to customers. Some were in construction, some were in office equipment, some are in ophthalmic, like all of the different divisions that we touched on. We would create a piece of collateral for them, and they were being created by 4 different people who, for whatever reason, weren't talking to each other. So the idea of having a relationship with our customers, it was really that marketing person and the customers, not the organization and the customers. So that was something else that was a challenge at the time. And then, as I mentioned earlier, sales and marketing alignment, ops and marketing alignment, legal and marketing alignment, executive team and marketing alignment. That was a theme for sure. So 2 ways that we went about solving this. And as I mentioned earlier, it was a bit of an evolution, and I wanted to share the evolution with you because depending on where you guys are with your teams, you may find that you want to start at the very basic and work your way up. You may want to just jump to where we are now. It really kind of depends on what your needs are. And I wanted to make it as practical as I could, so it's kind of a choose your own adventure. So 2 solutions. First of all, any time I approach any problem, I try to first think about the why, the mentality, the reasoning behind, because people don't come to work to be jerks. They don't come to work to sit there and not do anything. They just don't know what they don't know. And so I wanted to approach the challenges that I talked about before, both from the mental of why is this happening, what are the things that we need to do to fix it, and then the physical, which is what are the items that I can use to make my team's lives easier and my customers' lives easier and my customers' lives easier. So mental, which is what I'll talk about first, is this concept of return on objective versus return on investment. So at GreatAmerica, we have cobbled together this beautiful, amazing 800-person strong company. We have about $4 billion in assets, and we are Midwesterners who like to stare at our shoes and just do our jobs and not talk to anybody. And oh my God, PR, that's crazy. Like, It was this sort of idea that you didn't necessarily talk about the work that you were doing. And then we had this sort of shift in management. Our founder, I should mention we're family owned, our founder semi-retired. If he's in the building, he's not retired, let me tell you. But in theory, he retired and his son took over as CEO. And so we really wanted to embrace this sort of new way of going to business, going to business. And part of that was data-driven decisions, right? I want to be able to show that effort equals dollars, that going to this trade show equals new customers, that, right? So you want to be able to show value. Except that we have this old, antiquated, legacy financial system. It is getting fixed, I promise. But it will not, absolutely positively under no circumstances, will it talk to Salesforce, which we use, or HubSpot, which we use, or I don't know, Excel. Like it just, we had no way of accessing the numbers that we needed to be able to show true attribution. So I'd sit in these meetings and people would be like, well, which trade show should we drop next year? I don't know. Like when you'd ask the salespeople how the trade show went, they'd be like, oh my God, it was so great. I'm like, well, what does great mean to you? Did you have like a really fun night out with your buddies? Or did you talk to a new customer? Did you land a new customer? Did you meet your customer's customers? Because we are B to B to B. What does great mean to you? And they would come back with like all this energy and they were so excited, and yet they couldn't attribute anything that we had done to anything that they had done. So this idea of attribution kind of ate at me for probably the first couple of years that I was at GreatAmerica, and we slowly introduced what I'm calling return on objective. And I don't know if you can even see, yeah. So return on objective, it's simple, like genuinely. This is like the simplest concept on the planet, and yet it is amazing to me how many people don't use it and how many teams don't use it. And the neat thing is that not only is the marketing team using it, I've got other teams in the company using it now as well. So it's the idea, are you ready? It's revolutionary, that you agree upon your objectives before you do anything. That's it. It is just truly that simple. And yet, they were like, oh, we don't know how to do that. Yeah, you do. You just sit down at a table and you have a conversation and you say, hey, we're going to go to this trade show this year. What do you hope to accomplish, Miss Salesperson? Or, hey, we're going to start this new digital campaign. We've never done this one before, so the benchmarks might be a little all over the place, but I'm going to pull some research and some data. I'm going to tell you what I think might happen, and then we're going to talk together and decide if that objective is okay with you, right? Or you work with your HR team and you say, hey, we are going to start going to new career fairs, and we're going to bring in executives as speakers rather than just our HR department. We think that it might garner additional applications, additional interest from students. What do you think about that, right? And they can say no. Absolutely, they can say no. But they also can say yes. They can also then tell you, oh, actually, that's not the thing we want to focus on. We want to focus on X, right? And we do a lot of trade shows, admittedly, which actually, if I go back when you could even see, this is the example I brought up was specific to our FY26 events. So if I go to a Great Clips show, Great Clips is one of our long, like 20 plus year standing customers, and we provide the financing for anybody who wants to own their own Great Clips location, right? And it's any soup to nuts. It's anything from scissors to like the branding to the marketing to the everything, right? And we finance the build out and all of that stuff. So me going and talking to a group of Great Clips owners who literally 20 plus year relationship with, they literally know our salesperson Gretchen by name, like big hugs, whole thing. And she knows literally all but maybe two of Great Clips franchise owners, and those two people were just new this year, and she'll be best friends with them by next week, I promise. And then conversely, you go over to car washes, which we are now also starting to finance car wash franchises. We know nobody. Like, we are starting from scratch, which for a marketer is so exciting because it means I am literally on all ends of the spectrum of a brand life cycle, right? So it keeps the ADHD going pretty well. But the neat thing about it is that my conversation with Gretchen about what she hopes to accomplish at the Great Clips show is a completely different set of objectives and a completely different set of ideas and strategies and objectives for what she wants to get out of a show where she's brand new. So we sit down together at the beginning of any trade show, any campaign, anything, and we agree. And we agree in writing. I don't want this like, oh, well, you said you were going to do this and this didn't happen. No, we agree upon it in writing. We both sign off on it. It allows for measurability without relying on traditional attribution, right? I can't necessarily say, because of our systems, I can't say, hey, Gretchen landed this new car wash franchise, it resulted in this many dollars. I literally, my systems don't allow us to be able to do that at present moment. It will, but right now it still does not. So all of a sudden, though, I could say, hey, your objective at the Great Clips show was to have deeper relationships with your 5 favorite customers. You gave me their 5 names. We took an ABM approach. We made sure that you had meetings set up with all of those folks. We created specialty customized gifts for them that came from you, and now you've cemented those relationships further, and we can measure that they gave us an increased number of applications or an increased number of whatever, right? On the, again, as I use my car wash example, maybe her objective there was simply leads. Maybe her objective there was visits to our landing page. Maybe her objective there was just to talk with enough people. So maybe we do something different in that show. Rather than standing behind a booth, maybe instead we schedule a morning coffee where it's coffee with Gretchen, or maybe we scheduled a cocktail party, whatever it may be. We'll go in and do our research, but again, we agree on it together, and then we measure it together after the fact. The neat thing about it, too, is that it established a cadence of, oh, there's a time clock. There you go. Sorry, I just noticed that. We're about halfway. We established a cadence of check-ins throughout, right? So a PKO. Does anybody use PKOs? Oh, I love a good PKO, right? Project kickoff. It is the beginning of your new website redesign, or it's the beginning of planning for trade show season, or it's the beginning of, hey, we think it'd be fun to do direct mail this year. No. So as we think about that, it allows us, again, to have those things in writing. It allows us to have everybody who needs to have a voice in the project. So maybe it's your VP of sales, but also maybe it's the head of that particular business unit, because this is a new thing that we're doing and they need to be engaged in it. So we work together to establish who needs to be a part of the meeting, and then we have the PKO. And then about a week out, we have a stand-up, which is just basically, do you have your suitcase packed? Do you have your tchotchkes mailed? Whatever it may be. And we just kind of go through our checklist to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then a month after, we have my favorite version of the P&L, which is a pause and learn, which is literally just a postmortem. But postmortem seemed so kind of creepy, and I think I watched enough murder shows to be like, I don't really want to call it a postmortem. So we came up with pause and learn, right? Literally, it is not a blame game. It is not a, well, you said you were going to do this, but here's what actually happened. It is truly a way for us together in alignment as a team to learn and to make decisions then together, right? So say, for example, our goal was to have her meet with 5 Great Clips owners and only 4 showed up. Okay, we know that the number skewed weird, but she could also tell us about how that concept worked with them. Like we did a thing in Vegas where we literally took some folks on a gondola ride, and it was, they're your captive. And so Jesse, the guy that we had do that one, he was so excited because they were all having this shared experience. And he's like, they're like some of my new best friends now. It's really kind of amazing. And so figuring out what those experiences look like and what those campaigns look like, and making sure that it worked or didn't work. And it's okay if it didn't work, because then we call it a learn. We don't call it a failure. We don't, I love the concept of fail forward fast, but I also feel like the name fail is still in there, and we don't want you to say that it failed. We want to talk about, what did we learn? How can we apply it to next year? What are the things that we can do to make it better? Because the idea is to iterate over and over and over and over and just keep getting better. That's return on objective, and I love it. And it has made an enormous difference in our business. So next is Jira. I do not work for Jira. They will not be sending me any fun tchotchkes as a result of doing this presentation. So I want you to know that the reason that I am talking about Jira is because I genuinely love it and use it and embrace it fully. So as I mentioned, I was at an agency prior to joining GreatAmerica. And at my agency, we used Asana. Does anybody use Asana? Isn't it delightful, right? Tab B was my favorite. So Asana is wonderful, except when you get to an 800-person organization, A, the price goes way up. But also, we found that not everybody wanted to learn it. And if I was working in Asana, but my accounting department wasn't open to learning it, or my HR folks didn't want to have to go in and check on the status of their campaigns in Asana, it was kind of insular and just kind of, it was a brave first step, I will say, and I loved it, and I still love it. As an agency, we then moved to Workamajig, and if any of you ever decide to start a marketing firm or advertising agency, Workamajig is the bomb. It is amazing, and it literally measures everything from proposals, rate of success, time spent, etc., all the way to filing your taxes. It does time management. It does literally everything, and it was amazing. And if I could get Workamajig for GreatAmerica, I would do it in a heartbeat, but we can't. So we had to figure out what to do. So as I mentioned, we started with Asana. It was okay. I'd give it like a solid B-. And then we moved to Teams and Teams Project. And I'd give it a B+. And the idea there was, again, that it opened up the world and that more people could see it, because our entire organization during the pandemic moved to Microsoft Teams, obviously because we were all remote, and so it just kind of made sense. It was very glitchy. It was very hard to maintain attachments. The reporting wasn't great, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to say, look at the great work my team did this year. Here's the results that it had for you. And if I can't even pull really simple reports, it makes it really hard to do. So we have what we call a digital transformation. Are all of you going through a digital transformation right now? Yeah. So we're going through a digital transformation. It's called The Great Tomorrow. Logo is very cute. And they, as an organization, decided to move to Agile and to Jira. And for, as soon as it came out of the box, I took the Agile training, I spent the week, I took the test, I did the whole thing. And then we fully bastardized it. And I love it fully bastardized, because what we did is we took the things in Agile that worked for us, and then we got rid of the stuff that didn't work for us. And it has been such a beautiful thing. And just it's the idea of, again, as you go back to that return on objective, it is the idea of making a plan, sticking to the plan, evaluating the plan, and then making a new plan. Like, it is just that beautifully simple, and it's done in a very timed sequence. It allows us, it just allows for a shared language. So since the digital transformation team was going to Jira, I raised my hand and said, could we do it too? Like, that would be amazing. And that was probably about 3 years ago. And the answer was no at the time, because it was very hard to work in marketing requests and needs and projects into a Jira world. But they have since come up with a Jira for marketing, no joke. And so the minute that happened, one of our systems engineers was like, I got you. I know you've been asking for this for a couple years. Let's move the team over. And to see my team embrace a software has been a thing of beauty, because they're graphic designers and videographers, and I was so sure that they were not going to want to do this, and instead they have found that they see more value in their work, because they can map out their projects and they can loop you in, because you are maybe step 3 in that project and you're going to need to be able to give them some feedback. So now all of a sudden they can program it in. You've got a timeline that says, hey, I really need your feedback, and I'm going to need it by Thursday in order for us to move on to the next. And all of a sudden, this team of creatives became a team of project managers, and it has been an absolutely brilliant, beautiful thing. So I talk in here about degree of difficulty. And is everybody familiar with the Fibonacci sequence? 0, 1, 2, right? Okay, good. So the cool thing about using the Fibonacci sequence as your degree of difficulty is that if I've been a graphic designer for 15 years, I'm not, but if I've been a graphic designer for 15 years and you are maybe right out of college and you're brand new, or maybe you're even an intern, me updating something or creating something might not take you the same amount of time, and it might have degrees of difficulty that are different. Same thing, same project, but it just is a little bit subjective. And it's not widely different. I'm not going to give something a 13 and you're going to give it a 2. But between 2 and 3, or between maybe 3 and 5, like there might be a little bit of difference. And the idea behind that is that it allows you to plan out your week. It allows you to say, okay, I've got this many points for the week, because it's based on points. I've got this many points for the week, and I know this is going to take me X. And then you dive into the project and you're like, whoa, this is so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's going to actually be Y. Okay, great. Now you've got the ability at the end of that project to assign it a degree of difficulty, in which case now we've got the ability to track over and over and to really grow and learn as a team. Again, you do this post-planning and you've got the opportunity to really learn from what you've done for the past 2 weeks, quarter, whatever it may be. We also have standard operating procedures, which I had nothing to do with. My team actually drew them up, and I was so excited that they were so into Jira and so used to the idea of this is how I'm going to use it, this is how we're going to use it, and creating this shared language. And so I mentioned the Microsoft approach, right? So if I go into Microsoft Excel, there are roughly 52,000 ways that you can do any one thing, right? You can go to the menu at the top, you can type in your own formula, you can, there's a million ways, right? And so when we started this, I took the Microsoft approach in that the way you do it might be a little bit different than the way you do it, which might be a little bit different than the way you do it. And then we came back together after about 3 months of using it, and we're like, okay, you explain your way, you explain your way, and you explain your way, and we're all going to talk about it, and we're going to decide what makes the most sense for our team, and then we're going to put it into our standard operating procedure. And it was really cool because now we're having these really robust discussions on the best way to go to work, as opposed to really robust discussions about who's driving us crazy and who's not doing it right? Like it created a much more robust, positive, professional way of discussing business. And then Agile, like I said, the neat thing about doing it is it added structure. It gave us a shared language. So now I look at all, like our legal department adopted Jira. As I mentioned, all of our digital transformation folks have. And so now we have a shared language. Now I can go talk to the business architects and say, hey, for the next PI, I'd really like to make sure that putting a better HubSpot to Salesforce integration makes it onto the train. I speak their language. They speak my language. And we together know what we hope to accomplish. So this is a Jira board. Intentionally, you're not meant to see it because our IT department is a little psycho about PII. So I'm not doing anything here that will get me in trouble, I promise, in case JL Press is watching this video. But what you can see is this is a Kanban board. So this is these individual tabs are the individual projects, and then they kind of move from the backlog, which is this is something that's going to need to be done, to do, which is, hey, this is now on your radar, to under review, which means I've done my part, I need somebody else to review it, to done. Like literally, it is that simple. And so you can either show it physically, if you're, because if you think about it, everybody's a slightly different learner. I'm a list girl, so that list at the bottom, that's how I like to see Jira. But if you're a visual person and you want to see all the sticky notes, well, you can use the there are just lots of different ways within Jira to be able to see what your team is working on. And as the leader of the team, I can go in and I can see in a snapshot at any given moment all of the things that all of my different team members are working on. And we then can have conversations, which we do once a week on Thursdays. How are your projects going, and do you have any competing priorities? And then, again, as a team, we go through this massive list and we say, you know what, my thing can wait till next Tuesday. You can bump me down because I can see that somebody else has something more urgent. So again, now I've got people across several different divisions and several different departments actually working together collaboratively because we're all responsible for this board together. Does that make sense? Awesome. So this is the final thing, final slide, I promise. This is fist to 5, and this is one of my favorite parts of Agile, right? So this, literally it's a fist, right? Up to 5. And the idea behind it is that when we have a team meeting, when we have a team discussion, when we do pre-planning for the next 2-week sprint, you then have everybody vote. Was this awesome? Was this really bad? Do you have some reservations? And so if you look at this, it talks about like, this is no way, because we'll literally say, okay, guys, this is the plan for the next 2 weeks. And if anybody in the room does this, or even this, we have a discussion about why. And what it does is it shows physically, it shows that everybody is on the same page. It shows that everybody is like, we're going for it, or, ooh, I might have some reservations, but I'm willing to step in line and go along with you. But what the fist to 5 does is it physically allows you to see that you've got engagement from everybody in the room and that you've got everybody in the room knowing that we're moving in the right direction. Does that make sense? Okay, so fist to 5, who's hungry and is ready to go have lunch? There we go. Thank you for your time.